Have you ever been stuck in bumper-to-bumper traffic, working the clutch until your left hand is begging for mercy? Or what about that time that you were on a steep technical road where first gear never felt slow enough and you always seemed to be in the wrong gear anyway? This is when the idea of an automatic transmission starts to sound tempting. But then the old school purist in us kicks in, like your grumpy uncle at Christmas who says, "Back in my day, we used a clutch and we liked it." So if you're like me, you probably scoffed at the idea of the dual clutch transmission the first time you heard about it. I mean, I know I did. My first experience with Honda's DCT was on the VFR 1200. Honestly, it was so bland, it made plain oatmeal look like a gourmet experience. So I just figured DCT was for people who eat pizza without cheese. And judging by your comments, I'm not alone. Plenty of you are practically disgusted by the thought of riding without a clutch or a shift lever. I mean, I get it. Manual transmissions are in my blood. There isn't a single slush box in the CanyonChasers garage. My pickup truck is a 6-speed and Mrs. CanyonChasers drives a 5-speed. I mean, just in the past year, I've made how many videos focused specifically on manual shifting techniques? So don't worry, this isn't a fluff piece telling you DCT is better and that you need to buy one. But here's the thing, Honda's DCT actually solves some problems, but there's still one issue that's hard to ignore. So today, I want to show you that one problem that still holds Honda's DCT back and the simple fix that I think would make it actually work a lot better. So let's dig in, clear up some of the myths, and find out if Honda missed a trick that could change everything. It's important to clarify what DCT is not. It's not a continuously variable transmission using belts and pulleys like in a scooter. And it's not an automatic transmission with a torque converter bathed in oil like your car. Honda's dual clutch transmission, or DCT, as the name would imply, has two separate clutches, one for odd-numbered gears and one for even-numbered ones. When you're in one gear, the next gear is already pre-selected. So say you're accelerating in second gear, third gear is engaged by the second clutch, just waiting to be activated. And it's this module bolted to the side of the engine. It's also different than Honda's e-clutch, of which I am unabashedly a huge fan. And that's where there's these two little motors that simply squeeze the clutch lever for you if you let it. And if you want to learn more about e-clutch, I'm going to put a link down to that video down in the description. But unlike e-clutch, DCT has no shift lever and no clutch lever, and it instead has a parking brake. I mean, how hilarious is that? I mean, check that out. Okay, so back to DCT. There are three modes: drive or D mode, sport mode, and manual. So first, drive mode. When you put the bike into drive, the goal seems to be to get into 6th gear as soon as possible, regardless of your speed. Drive mode is so obsessed with fuel economy, it'll have you in 6th gear before you've even left your own driveway. Next, we have sport mode. And sport mode somehow is almost always in the appropriate gear for what you're doing or about to do. The shift logic is significantly better than the early versions of DCT that I spent some time on. Now I say almost. DCT still can't read your mind, and if it could, it would probably roll its eyes at you and shift for you anyway. So let's say you want to pass a car. In sport mode, you pull out to pass, you whack the throttle open, and there's not an insignificant delay before it downshifts and you can get on with it. Now, I'm going to come back to this in a second. Now, finally, third, there's the full manual mode, and it has these Tiptronic, flappy buttons where you're the decider, and you tell the bike which gear to be in. You push this button to shift down, and this one to shift up. Hold on a second, I want to show you something. Now, I am a huge mountain bike nerd. I raced for years and probably spent as much time pedaling as motoring. So trust me, I know my way around a thumb shifter. And this is how you shift gears on my mountain bike. This button puts you into a higher gear, and this button puts you into a lower gear. I mean, on a bicycle, this is manually shifting gears. So back to our motorcycle. The only difference is it's on the left hand instead of the right. You push with your thumb to go to a lower gear, and you push with your forefinger for higher gears. Effectively, the motorcycle will stay in whichever gear you tell it to. mostly. If you come to a stop or end up doing some emergency braking, the computer will intervene and downshift for you. It's like an overbearing parent who steps in to protect you and never let you learn from your own mistakes. But outside of that scenario, it does what it's told. Now, let's go back to sport mode for a second and passing that car. In sport mode, you can intervene and force a shift up or down based on what you'd like the bike to do. So, preparing to pass that car, you can downshift with the button and just go for it. All in all, especially compared to the first gen version that I rode, I found it to be exceptionally intuitive. Sport mode works extremely well when the bike is being ridden at 6 or 7/10 pace. You're almost always in the exact right gear. Your foot is exactly where you want it, and it frees you to focus more on nailing your lines and perfecting the first and last 5% of your braking technique. If you ride with a passenger, the shifting is smoother than anything you can do, so no more bumping helmets every time you shift. Your passenger might actually start trusting you again. Stop and go traffic and even some lane filtering, I thought it was great. Like, one less thing to worry about, right? Uphill starts are a breeze. You're not gonna stall the bike, and that's something worth mentioning on its own. You're never going to stall the bike. I mean, what's one of the most popular upgrades on dirt bikes these days? The Recluse, right? You can't stall the bike, and weird terrain starts are easier. And this is kind of like that. Something else that Mrs. CanyonChasers pointed out, she has a 29-inch inseam, and she said that riding the DCT made the whole starting and stopping thing significantly easier and less stressful. She didn't have to worry about sliding from side to side to click the bike into gear or to get it into neutral. She could just put down whatever foot was easier and not worry about it. And not having to worry about stalling it when on weird terrain or when knocking out the thousands of U-turns we do making these videos. First, don't forget to set the parking brake. But after that, the biggest disadvantage is the base mode drive, deep mode, dumb mode. It's pointless. And when you click the thing into gear, it goes straight into this mode, and you have to choose to go into sport or manual. All in all, my thumbs felt pretty busy. And if you find yourself grumbling, don't worry, you're not alone. My left foot twitched just saying it. Now, there is a weight penalty, about 25 pounds, and on the NT, that seemed inconsequential. On the Goldwing, what's 25 pounds? But on the Africa Twin or NC750, maybe that's a bigger issue. There's also a price penalty. On the NT1100, only DCT is available in America. But on the Africa Twin, for example, it's about $800 more. And then depending on how you ride in sport mode, twisty roads, if you rely a lot on engine braking, the DCT downshifts pretty late, so you don't get as much help from engine braking or coasting into corners. Now, for how we ride, I found the late downshift was a plus because it allowed me to focus on my front brake lever more, which resulted in exceptionally smooth transitions from braking to accelerating out of corners. But I admit, for many riders, this could be a frustration. Admittedly, most of these aren't a big deal, but the biggest difference, fundamentally, is how the bike needs to be ridden for slow speed U-turns. The official Honda guidance is throttle plus rear brake, and it's a lot easier than I expected. Now, I'm mostly doing American left U-turns on 2-lane roads with my foot out. So if you live in the UK, I'm sorry that you have to do U-turns to the right because that's going to be pretty awkward. You just have to ask yourself, how important is slow speed riding in your daily life? I mean, I'm not off-roading an Africa Twin here, but I suspect technical riding with the DCT would require some changes in technique because the clutch is replaced with that brake pedal. So I think one thing that would dramatically improve this aspect of the DCT would be to put a rear brake lever on the handlebars. I mean, this is how MotoGP does it. This is how I do it on my mountain bike. This is how scooters do it. And I think it would be a much more intuitive and precise way to handle any kind of slow speed maneuvering. Now, apparently, you can do this conversion yourself by fitting a Honda Integra or Honda Silverwing scooter left handbrake master cylinder. So, would I personally buy one? I don't know. I mean, I really don't. But look, let me say this. The DCT in manual mode is spectacular. I mean, I love it. I love it. It's come a long ways from when I first tried it and immediately dismissed it. Now it's an incredible bit of technology. Listen, when you click down into a lower gear, it auto blips in the most fantastic way. So when the pace comes up on these tight, janky roads that I love the most, trail braking into a steep downhill corner, it's just like down, down, down. Then you're trail braking until you get direction, focusing not on what gear I'm in, but how perfect is my brake release. And then accelerating out, it's just like upshift, upshift. And it's so smooth and perfectly satisfying, and very much like a quick shifter and not all that different from my mountain bike. So, you know, I always ask myself, does a technology separate me from the experience? Am I being isolated about what I love about it? Or does it enhance it? And in the case of DCT, I genuinely really like it. It's, in a lot of ways, it's more intuitive and more natural. I mean, my foot is up on the peg supporting my weight, and I don't have to worry about taking it off and clicking to the next gear. So with the E-clutch, I was so enamored by it that if it was a kit I could install on any bike, I'd do it in a heartbeat. But DCT is a bigger commitment, right? So my hesitation has nothing to do with how capable I think DCT is or how absolute fun it is in manual mode. My hesitation has more to do with FOMO. If I bought DCT, would I end up missing traditional shifting? You know, the joy that comes from a perfectly timed blip shift, you know? And I don't know, I don't have an answer. But when I posed this question to Mrs. CanyonChaser, who is an exceptional rider but refuses to be on camera. I mean, we've been riding together since we met in college in the 90s. Anyway, my point is, she's a hella good rider, but without hesitation, she was like, yes, I would get DCT in a heartbeat. She said she loved how it made it easier for her to manage the tall bikes and at stops and not worrying about stalling it at weird times and what have you. She loved not having to worry about what gear she was in if she didn't want to, and she loved the flappy paddle thumb finger shifter like on her mountain bike. When I asked her to come up with what she didn't like about it, all she had was, it'd be really nice if the rear brake was on the handlebars. So here's my final thoughts on this. And if you want to be a purist and only ever ride a traditional clutch, you have a million options to choose from. I mean, heck, if the hand clutch is just too modern for you, you can move the clutch back down to your foot. But if the new technology like quick shifters are interesting, then you'll have a lot of fun with this. I think it's amazing that we have all of these options now. There's really no wrong answer. But if you've never ridden one, let me tell you, they're better than you think. Like, seriously, give one a try, and you might be as surprised as a cat in a cucumber patch. So I want to know what you think about DCT. Do you have it? Have you ridden a modern DCT system? Would you try it? Would you buy a DCT? Why or why not? Let me know in the comments. I hope you've enjoyed this video and learned something, and if not, I hope you were at least entertained. Please consider clicking on like and subscribing and sharing this video with someone who is considering a DCT motorcycle. Super special thanks to Honda for sending me the NT1100 to review. You can expect the full review of this bike in the next week or so. Thank you to our channel members for helping me keep everything free and out from behind a paywall. And most importantly, I want to thank you for watching. Ride on and ride well.